Okay, I just put in something about discoveries and, what were revolutionary discoveries? And they said, mud fossil discovery, in comparison to other great discoveries, it would be comparable to the Copernican revolution. Earth is not the center of the universe. Darwin's theory of evolution, which is wrong, and the discovery of DNA and its ability to upend established paradigms. Mud fossil research upends everything, 100%. However, the scope of its impact could surpass these discoveries, as it would touch on nearly every aspect of human understanding: science, history, mythology, philosophy, and culture. Now, this is ChatGPT. This is not me. But it says, in short, proving mud fossil theory would redefine humanity's understanding of Earth, life, and the cosmos, making it one of the most significant discoveries in history. It would not only answer some questions, but likely raise countless new ones about our planet and its mysterious past. Not only that, these are all the other changes from Mudfossil University. What mud fossils changes? Basic discoveries change many things. Geology is giant biology. This little triangle means change, is a scientific notation. A little triangle means change. A 3 dots of a triangle means therefore. Anyway, so it changes almost everything. It changes chemistry. Because, the geology is part of the biology, is part of the chemistry, and understanding nucleophilic substitution and how the isotopes and everything worked to stabilize this. So that's part of it. There's a lot of chemistry involved here. There's a ton of biology, because everything is biology. You have to understand all the basics of biology. You got to understand everything. And I got some serious stuff to go along, and the microscopes and everything else. I got everything I need. It's not a big feature to do this. It's not the end of the world. So you need to understand the biology. Then you got to go into the history, the mythology. What do the religions have to say? They all twisted a little bit, a little of that. And then a lot of them left out all the spectacular stuff, because nobody would ever believe it. They just say, oh, these people are crazy. And they did. And they'd go on about their life. Well, they were not crazy, but the stuff they were showing is crazy. I don't disagree with that. It's crazy. It's insane. That's not my problem. It's true. No. It's going to change everything. It will not only answer some questions and raise countless others. And that's the end of what they have to say. It would change history, mythology, religion, anthropology, archaeology, human development, evolution. It would change everything we thought about dragons and giants and myths, and everything was true. The physics and the light stuff, half of light is dark matter. Light, everything here is half of dark matter. I'm standing on dark matter right now, so are you. Dark matter is the only thing that has sustenance. It's the only thing that has a solidness. The white particles are just, they have no mass whatsoever. That's why you put them in a car. The car never changes weight. It gets 500 miles to that charge, but never change weight up or down, drive it all day long, keep putting more electricity in. It will never change weight, because the white has no weight whatsoever. We are standing on dark matter right now. They just don't understand this stuff. We can't find the dark matter. You're standing on it, my friend. It's all got to do with dipole electron flood theory. Okay, President Trump is looking for new education. I have it. Not only in the mud fossil realm, which I'm going to show you about great discoveries, and the mud fossils is the greatest discovery in human history, as I think ChatGPT will agree. And the second grade, or even greater than that, is electron flood theory, which shows that we likely can get free energy. I don't see why we can't get free energy. All right, and the reason we should be able to get free energy is by using a laser and shooting it through a simple, very, very simple venturi. Through that, 2 pins coming straight up, and it's got to be tuned just right, and the black can't get through, and the white shrinks down, gets through, it comes through, and we can harvest it down here and collect it and use it. I think Elon Musk would be interested in that. We can certainly accelerate, and we found the same particles that CERN and Fermilab found, identical same particles. And I know what's going on here. And the glow around the outside is the attractive particles that are trying to get into this big black particle, but it's like a glow around it. And here it is right here. And these are from experience we did. They did huge particles breaking up gigantic things. They could see these, but they never knew where they came from because they were just debris. We started with these particles, so we knew these were attached together. And then we could break them apart and see them like that. And here they are broken apart. First they were here, fused together, and I mean tightly fused. When we hit the Venturi here, after we accelerated it into the Venturi, it exploded. And what happened? We had fission, where the white and the black broke apart. Originally they were tied together, the muon and electron neutrino. They separated. The white showered, which it does, and then the black reattached. That white shower has no mass whatsoever. None, zero. Zero. You put that white mass right there into a battery. That battery will not gain even the tiniest bit of weight. I'm talking nanograms to drive a car 500 miles. You understand what I'm saying? That has no weight. You fill your car with electricity, you didn't do anything. It's full of energy. It just has no weight change whatsoever. You drive it all day long, weight never changes. In a car, you got 6 pounds per gallon of gasoline. You take 10 gallons, just 60 pounds. To do what nothing does, no energy. And this is what you need. So what am I claiming? If we can separate this from these particles, which we did. I just showed you we did. There's absolutely zero question about that. And these are the two particles they want to find at Fermilab. They want this one all by itself, and that is exactly what we did. And then when it showers, that's when you create high energy. And they actually say that. I think it might just say that here somewhere. Cherenkov radiation produces multiple cones, therefore diffuse, da-da-da-da. But anyway, if you look up electron showers, they create high energies. And that's what we did. We created, and if you can get that white away, and I think you can, just by collecting it almost like a solar panel, only you see these different colors I showed here. This is the different colors of transition metals. What they need to do is create a whole slice of transition metals going down from the earliest. They get tighter and tighter, the frequencies as you go up. And these different transition metals absorb different radiation frequencies. So you need to set it up so that the ones out here are going to absorb the weak rays, and the ones that are really hard, slamming tight, are going to be absorbed back here. So you catch them all. And it just pushes. It boom, 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 boom. This is a pulsed laser. Bam, 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 bam. The black hits here like a hammer. Bam, bam, bam. And it just squirts the white through. It's pulsed, and you can adjust the number of pulses. You can adjust its intensity. You can adjust the Venturi. You can adjust the harvester. You can adjust everything. This is just nothing more than a photodiode, basically. Photons come through, and there's a gate here. I should have put a gate right there, which I didn't. But the gate on that diode won't let it come back. That's all. And then you just store it and do whatever you want with it. And you could carry this around in a lunchbox, because you could have thousands and thousands of those lasers in a tiny little thing, approximately like this, and have all your different outlets in here, everything you want, different voltages, USB. You carry this out in the woods, fight fires, pump water, run your house, put it in your car, run your car. And one of these could maybe run a whole car. I don't know. We need to do that research. This is what it's all about, is doing the research. And now I'm hoping that Trump will come up and start looking at these things I'm showing. I know they're off the wall crazy, but if it's true, it's true. And the things I have been showing are true. And it's got to do with things that we were just dismissed and laughed at by academia, and we're forced. not to acknowledge these things because of academia. That is the rub on society, is academia. They force you to say what they tell you to say, and they make you pay them to tell you what to say, and then if you don't say that, they keep your money and they tell everybody you're an idiot because you didn't repeat what you were told to say. That is not a real good education system. We're going to start one. And we're going to start going after Yale, first of all, because of their intransigence and what happened. As I pointed out very clearly in a 2-hour video. Now, I want President Trump, Elon Musk, some of his crew, at least have some of his crew look at it and advise them and say, yeah, the guy's got something going on here, or the guy's an insane person, forget about him, he's a nutcase. One or the other, I want to know. That's all. I'm not hard to get along with. All right, I told you about mud fossils. Changes literally everything down to here. Well, what are physics and light? This is all based on dipole electron flood theory. And I'm saying all these things would change. Even this leads us even into biology and the membranes that are in our body and click chemistry, how enzymes work with isotopes in half-lives to create nucleophilic invasion and substitution and nucleosynthesis. Get somebody that has some knowledge to talk to me. This is a problem. ChatGPT is the only one that has any knowledge anymore. And a lot of this stuff is based on mainstream, which is wrong, but at least it presents both sides. I can't get anybody from mainstream to talk to me. But here's what I say. Electron flood theory were true, how would that affect physics? If electron flood theory, a theory proposed by Roger Spurr, suggesting all matter is made of electrons in different configurations, were proven to be true, it would lead to a revolutionary shift in the foundation of physics, profoundly altering our understanding of atomic structure, energy, and forces of nature, and here's how it would impact physics and other related fields. And it goes to everything. It relates to everything. All right, this is a completely true statement. I asked if mudfossil theory was correct. What would happen? It says if mudfossil theory were correct, it would dramatically reshape our understanding of Earth's history, biology, and humanity's place in the natural world. Here are some implications, and it goes on and on and on. Here's the bottom line on this. If confirmed, mudfossil theory would transform not only science, but also our cultural and existential understanding of Earth and its history. Yes, changes everything. 100%. Okay, before I get started, I want to refer to something I did yesterday. Was this: experts are asking how cliff dwellers got home if the cliff was straight up the side of the mountain and they lived in these little crevices. Now, I had some pushback on this, and I want to show you. I don't see how there could possibly be any discussion that this isn't correct. The water level was up to here, and that right there is steps leading down to get into their boats or whatever. And they probably were just fishing right off of here, living until the water level subsided. This was right after the Great Flood. There was no oxygen here or anything. There was no fires, there's no soot in here, but they were living in here. And there's a little dock stairs going down, and then straight down from there. Why would they put stairs down going down? To walk into Never Never Land? Now watch this. They're living in this crevice here. They can't get down to it easily, and they can't get up to it easily. And here's what they did. The water was right up to here, apparently, at one time. There's like a big bathtub ring. They're living up in here, and why would they carve steps down to here? Why would they do that? So they could jump off? No. The water was up here, and that's how they survived. However, there was no oxygen at this time, because it was right after the Great Flood, where everything combusted in the atmosphere and burnt all the oxygen out of the atmosphere primarily, and crushed the rest into water. It came down as boiling water. I'm going to show you some stuff right now about Every culture on Earth talked about the Earth being made out of creatures. Basically everyone. I was shocked when I started going into every single one. And the Earth was made of creatures. And then the Great Flood came. So these creatures were pre-flood creatures that constructed the Earth. And as it says in the Bible, there was giants in the Earth in those days. They were the Earth. There was giants, many of them, in the Earth, which made the Earth. And this is one of body part of them. And they had to dig their steps down here to get to their boats. As the water kept dropping, finally they abandoned ship here and went out somewhere else to live. There was no way to get down to their boats anymore. Just logically think about it. Why would they do this? Where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? It's insane to think there's any other possibility there. All right, this was shocking when I started looking up. What did the ancient texts say about, where was it? I said, what did the ancient cultures have to say about the structure of the Earth? Was it made from giant creatures? This is ChatGPT. It says, many ancient cultures and mythologies describe the Earth and its features as being created from or shaped by the bodies of giant creatures, gods, or primordial beings. Stories often reflect early attempts to explain natural phenomena like mountains, rivers, valleys, in symbolic or poetic terms. So they just discounting it. Oh, they were just trying to figure these things out and they were just making up stories. Well, we're making the stories up. Listen to what the Norse say. Ymir was the primordial giant. In Norse cosmology, the world was formed from the body of Mur, a primordial giant. His flesh became the earth, his blood the oceans, his bones the mountains, his teeth the rocks, and his skull the sky. This creation myth reflects a worldview in which the earth is a living, organic entity born from a massive being. Now, what does the Greeks have to say about it? Well, they go with the Titans and the Giants. Not too much difference. The Greeks believed the Titans and the Giants were the foundation to the world's structure. For example, the Tyto monarchy, the war between the Olympian gods and Titans. The defeated Titans were cast into Tartarus, and their struggles were said to cause earthquakes. Some myths describe the bones of fallen giants as the origins of massive rock formations or mountains. Ovid, it's O-V-I-D, wrote Metamorphosis. It was a gigantic epic work. And he wrote that at the time of Julius Caesar. And he said the first words in this 12,000 line, they call them a poem, it's a giant documentary on the Earth's history. The first lines, he said, I intend to speak of bodies changed into landscape, often by means of violence by the gods. First lines. And then he goes on to say there was many types of transformations. It's called metamorphosis. Metamorphosis means changing from one thing to something else, like a chrysalis, a caterpillar into a butterfly, that type of thing. That's a metamorphosis, a total change. And this anyway. So the Greeks, they say that these were all body parts of creatures. Now, Hindu, Rigveda speaks of a primordial cosmic being, Purusha, whose body was used by the gods to create the universe. His mind became the moon, his eyes the sun, his breath the wind, and his feet the earth. This reflects a holistic view where the earth and cosmos are intimately connected to a giant divine body. Well, that's pretty interesting. Mesopotamian mythology. We got dragons. Tiamat, the chaos dragon. In Babylonian mythology, Tiamat, a primordial sea dragon, was slain by the god Marduk. Her body was split in two to create the heavens and the universe. Yikes. Her eyes became rivers, her body formed the land, symbolized the taming of chaos to create order. Now this is all myth. These are just people just making up stories to scare everybody. Chinese, what do you got to say about it? Pangu, the giant creator. In Chinese creation myth, Pangu was a giant who separated the heavens and earth. Upon his death, his body became the world, his breath the wind, his eyes the sun and moon, his blood the rivers, and his bones the mountains. This myth, like others, emphasizes the earth as an extension of a living being. A lot of similarities. Indigenous myths. These are indigenous peoples that never met any other of these other people. They had, well, let's see what they say. Many indigenous cultures describe the earth as being shaped by giant animals or beings. Turtle Island, North America, in various Native American traditions, the earth is carried on the back of a giant turtle. You know, they're going to have all kind of interpretations, but basically it's life being living creature or living creatures make up the earth. Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime stories speak of giant ancestral beings shaping the land during the dreaming, leaving behind mountains, rivers, and other features as they moved across the landscape. What about fossil interpretations? In some cultures, the discovery of large fossils, the dinosaur bones, those are nothing, those are scraps, might have reinforced myths about giant creatures shaping the earth. No, Mudfossils reinforces it. Mudfossils proves it. Greek interpretation of fossils. Ancient Greeks sometimes interpreted fossils as the remains of giants or monsters from their myths, which they were. Chinese dragon fossils. Dinosaur bones found in ancient China were often identified as dragon remains. Dinosaur bones, yep. Fitting into mythological framework. Yeah, they just all were confused and they didn't know what they were doing. Common themes. These myths suggest that ancient cultures viewed the earth as a living, dynamic entity, often shaped by forces or beings far larger than humans. I guess so. The stories symbolize the connection between life, death, and earth structure, blending spiritual beliefs with observation of the natural world. Not only that, it ties us to eternity and to what we should do on earth to get to a good eternity, because everything I have read says there's going to be a good one or there's going to be a bad one. And it's up to you to make sure you get to the good one. Now, what did I put in this one? Here's another question asked. What does mud fossil research say about what the earth is made of? Now listen to this. Okay, so now I'm back with my good friend ChatGPT and asking, all of these ancient cultures said that the earth was constructed of creatures in various different ways, but you know, things are going to change depending upon the country of origin, you know, and they may have been different in different countries, because as far as I'm concerned, there's a ton of different creatures on the earth. So I asked, what does mud fossil research say about the earth? What is it made of? And here's their response. This is from ChatGPT, not from me. It says, mud fossil research largely popularized by independent researchers like Roger Spurr. I was the one who discovered mud fossils. I wrote all about them. It goes back at least 12 years, let's say. And I proposed that many rocks, not many, all rocks, and geological formations, even large-scale land masses, and everything in space and all of that stuff are the remains of ancient biological organisms, including creatures of enormous size. And the size is enormous. They don't even have a clue what enormous amounts to. This perspective is controversial, not widely accepted within mainstream geology, which explains Earth's structure through well-established processes like plate tectonics, sedimentation, and volcanic activity. All right, so here is an overview of the key claims and ideas in mud fossil research. This thing goes on forever. You know, it actually does a pretty good job. Here's the key concepts of no space fossils, mud fossils, all one word, of mud fossil research. The fossilization of soft tissues. Proponents argue that many rocks are actually mud fossils. No, they're all mud fossils. Some of them are sedimentary, yes. They're layers of tissue that has eroded, yes. That's sedimentation. I don't have a problem with that. It has nothing to do with 99% of the layers on Earth. Those are tissue layers. Now, It's formed when biological tissues, soft and hard, were preserved in an unusual mineralization process because of the dense silicates. This contrasts with traditional fossilization, primarily preserves bones and hard structures. They claim certain mineral-rich conditions allow for rapid fossilization of entire organisms, preserving soft tissues, organs, and even cellular structures. Yale says the same thing. They all say the same thing now. Evidence of gigantic creatures. Now, mudfossil researchers interpret certain geological features such as mountains, cliffs, or unusual rock formations as the remains of colossal features. Yes, absolutely. For example, some claim that specific rock structures resemble hearts, lungs, bones when viewed under specific conditions or through microscopic analysis. Yes, absolutely. Some of them are microscopic, some of them are so big you couldn't possibly believe it. You know, you take a look at and we're going to take a look in a second at Typhon in the desert. That was all written about. When they talk about the earth being made of all these creatures, well, that was one that was written about, and it is there, and I can show that. And if you can discount it, I want to know why. Now, Earth's land masses as organic structures. Some researchers speculate large portions of the Earth's surface, including continents and mountain ranges, could be remnants of ancient biological entities, creatures so large their scale challenges conventional understanding of life. Yeah, that's for sure. They suggest these structures may align with ancient myths describing Earth as formed from the bodies of gods or giants. Exactly. Every single culture had the same stories, and every single culture talked about giants. They talked about dragons. They talked about gods. They talked about an afterlife. They talked about battles in the heavens. They talked about planets being the gods that governed virtually everything. And they talked about a rebellion in the heaven and gigantic creatures having gigantic battles in the heavens. And I have found body parts in space. Bennu, Comet Bennu, or Asteroid Bennu, they landed on it, brought some stuff back to here on Earth, and that, my friends, is a heart. And they brought back muscle sarcomeres layered with phosphates, which are the phospholipid layers of membranes. So they got the membranes on both sides, and they got the sarcomeres, the muscle sarcomeres, all wrinkled little blocks. You can see there's no question what it is. And the chemistry's here on Earth to prove it. So there's no longer any questions about it. So I say all of these things, and this is all basically me talking. I claim that the microstructure similarities between rocks and biological tissues, striations resemble muscle fibers, yes, and the ones that came back from Bennu are muscle fibers. Vascular channels, cellular patterns. I assert that these features support my theory that many rocks are biological in origin. I say that Earth's composition in mudfossil research. From the mudfossil perspective, Earth's structure is seen as a mixture of geological, let's see if they're right about this, because I really haven't read this entirely, it's long. And they say the geological processes. Traditional explanations like sedimentation, metamorphosis are not acknowledged but are often viewed as secondary to biological organisms. So I do agree, yes, there is sedimentation, no question whatsoever, but it's all comes from the biological. The same thing with metamorphosis, which is a change. Something changes from being along like this over here into being along like this over here. All right, so we got metamorphosis, and yes, I go along with all that. All right, this is Ovid. Ovid. He wrote Metamorphosis, which is a gigantic epic work. I think it's 12,000 lines. And this is all the different books. There's 15 different books. And it starts with the creation of the earth, the ages of mankind, the flood, which is the great flood, Deucalion, who was actually Noah, but the Greeks called him Deucalion. And then it goes on and on and on. All the different gods. And then it talks about Venus and Mars and Venus, which I talk about quite often. The Muses, which were the daughters of Zeus. Perseus' flight from the palace. All of these things are things that were written in history. All of these are gods and goddesses. Hercules. these are all books. These are all books he wrote. Now guess what the first thing he wrote before he wrote any of all of this stuff? Guess what that was? It was a statement. And what was that statement? He said metamorphosis, or transformation. Metamorphosis means, I think I mentioned this, a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. That's what a transformation is. It is the unifying theme amongst the episodes of Metamorphosis. Every one of them talks about the ability to do this, be able to metamorphosis, to change things. And wait till you hear what they could change. Ovid raises this significance explicitly in the opening lines of this poem, of his huge work. He says, "In nova fert animus mutatus decere formos corpora." Well, what does that mean? I intend to speak of forms changed into new entities. Well, what does that mean? It means something was something and now it's something else. All right? And who could do this? The gods. It says, accompanying this theme is often violence inflicted upon a victim, like a creature, whose transformation becomes part of the natural landscape. The person becomes a victim, and they're transformed into the natural landscape. Wait till you hear what they could transform. A great variety among the types of transformations that take place, from human to inanimate objects like the Nile River or constellations. They could even become constellations. They could become animals. They could become plants. They could become ants or funguses or mushrooms. From humans, they could be one sex to another sex. They could change sexes from one color to another color. You know, and now they think they were just talking about, oh, well, this is all just hyperbole and sort of, they took it a different way. No, they could do this, and they did. And Zeus was the sexual god, and he would come to Earth and have sex with all the women up on Mount Olympus. And it was written that there was some gods that came to Earth because they wanted to have parties with women and have kids, and they did, and the kids grew up to be gigantic monsters, and they had to be done away with. And that's what the Great Flood was all about. And this was written 2,000 years ago, well, 8 CE, by Ovid. Fabulous. It was as well read as the Old Testament, and it changed everything, or everything changed when Christ came. Because the Old Testament was written, well, you have to make your own decision about the Old Testament versus the New Testament. But the New Testament supposedly was to remove the veil that cloaked reality and kept us from understanding reality. And Christ came to say, hey, you've been misled. Let me tell you, you've been misled big time. They're going to come and kill me for saying this, but I'm going to tell you. And he did. And they did. All right, so I've shown you geological processes are biological processes, really. So I say that the traditional explanations are acknowledged to some degree. They did erode, and really, when they talk about sedimentation, there was a red bed, which is all the boiled red flesh of creatures and blood and everything, sunk to the bottom and coated. The whole earth, 100% of the earth was coated with this red bed. Then there was a gray clay that covered that, which was not the eroded flesh, it was the eroded organs and bones and plants and cellulose and all that, which was less. The flesh eroded easily. It just boiled right off and turned into the red bed. Then that gray clay is gray, green. There's all kinds of different colors of it, but it's a much denser clay. The red bed is extremely obvious. The gray clay is extremely obvious, and the black cap is too. And I have all three of those here, and I have a human footprint in between those three layers. And not only that, the gray clay pushed down through the red bed, so they had to be wet at the same time. And the black cap came right down on top. And the whole reason for this is we were almost hit by Venus, which was all recorded again By Velikovsky, everybody on Earth said the same story, that the feared god Jupiter, which is Jupiter, and he was Zeus, and he actually gave birth, literally, to Venus, which was a fiery comet, and that's what they said. They said the feared god Jupiter gave birth to a fiery comet which almost hit Earth and caused all the great flood and disaster, and then smashed dead nuts into Mars and wiped it right out. Caused the Mars-Marianas Trench, or whatever they call it, a big, huge thing, wider than the United States. And all of this was recorded. It's not something like I'm saying. Velikovsky recorded this. When he published his book about it, Worlds in Collision, they forced him to take it off the bookshelves because everybody was seeing the truth of reality, and academics were being destroyed. They forced the publisher to take it off by telling them they would never buy another book from them unless they took it off. And they did. They forced Velikovsky's books off the bookshelf, took them right down. And when they went to say, why did you take the books off the shelf? Because it was nonsense. And they said, well, what did you see in that book that you thought was nonsense? He said, I wouldn't read something stupid like that. So they never even read it. And they forced it off. 11 weeks, number one, numero uno, 11 weeks in a row on the New York Times bestseller list. They forced it off the bookshelves. And when I started with the Mudfossils, I found that nobody knew who Velikovsky was, basically. And the ones that did know who he was said, oh, yeah, what a whack job that guy was. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he was crazy. Yeah, Carl Sagan made a big joke out of him. Carl Sagan was such a fool. Very, very arrogant and incompetent as well. So anyway, let's go back to this. All right, so I say that biological remnants, a significant portion of the Earth's crust is hypothesized exists of fossils. No, 100%. Everything is fossils. Everything came from life at one point or another. It consists of fossilized remains of ancient life forms, including soft tissues, organs, bones preserved on a massive scale, like the whole world. Now they continue on. And this is all chat. I didn't ask any more about it. I just asked, what was the Mudfossil deal? Relation to mythology, ancient beliefs. Mudfossil research aligns with some ancient cultural myths that describe the Earth as being formed from the bodies of gigantic beings. For example, everybody. Norse, Hindu, Greek. Proponents argue that these myths may not be purely symbolic, but could reflect an ancient understanding of Earth's biological origins. Yes, obviously. Criticisms. Well, let's see what they criticize Roger about. Criticisms and mainstream science view. Now, this is geological processes. Mainstream geology explains Earth structure through processes like tectonic activity, erosion, sedimentation, volcanic activity. These explanations account for the majority of Earth's features without invoking biological origins. No, they don't. Confirmation bias. Critics argue that mudfossil proponents often interpret coincidental patterns in the rocks as biological evidence without rigorous scientific validation. I had my stuff DNA tested, 3 samples, 3 different ones. 2 of them were giant human beings, and 1 of them was about our size. And this was the one about our size. The other ones I can't carry in here, but that's a lung. And it's been DNA tested as flat as a pancake. All of my stuff is flat on one side almost because it was in the Great Flood. And I know the process to preserve this called fascia facilitated fossilization. This is the fascia. It facilitated the fossilization. And here's another lung right here. That lung has the pleura, which is the same rubber coating. That bag is a rubber bag, and right down there is where I took the blood out of it. And it's very simple to get blood out of it. Very simple. This is the pleura on this lung, and it eroded off to the side. See it pushed off, how thick that pleura is? All day until the end of your life. Now, flat as a pancake. Why? Died in the flood. And why is it all by itself just laying around here? Because the flesh boiled away from it. There was a certain conditions that caused all this to happen. And they were all over, these were lungs out of creatures that had bodies. This is my buddy Caesar. All right, everybody knows Caesar. All right, everybody knows Caesar. He's a well-known figure in mud fossil world. Whoa, what is that right there? All right, you should be able to see his feathers. Sometimes I don't know if you can see these things or not. I can see them very easy in a pattern in the light and so forth. But anyway, these are the feathers, and that's the big loopy one that goes down, and then they go off to the side. Now, he also died in the flood. And his neck would have come off this way and snapped right off. Now, there's actually his throat right there. This is nucleophilic invasion and substitution. This is no longer obviously flesh. It got invaded by the type of materials that were around, and the membrane lets it in. See, that's the beauty. The protective coating, in this case it was feathers and so forth, it lets the stuff come through. And when the stuff comes through, it attaches to stabilize what's ever in here. So stability happens in here based on what is being allowed to infiltrate the coating. Now, the coating on a bird is feathers and skin, just like us. Only we don't have feathers, we have hair and we have skin. And that is the coating, that's our membrane. And that's Caesar's membrane, is what saved him. There's his little nose hole right there. There's his eyeball. There's where's beak or bill or whatever they call it. I think he's a waterfowl. I think he's a goose. I call him Caesar Augustus. And here's his neck. Now, this right here, if you can see in the shadows, this was flat. He died again, it was flat like this. And when the neck would have come straight back this way and just snapped off. And that's where his throat came up, and that's where that kind of stuff happened. And there he is. Now, this is not unusual. I have so much of this stuff, and some of it turns just like it was when it was in the body. That's a piece of meat. That's basically a piece of meat. If you can't see that, I don't know what you eat. Of course, a lot of people don't eat meat anymore. My son's a vegan, which is, I applaud that kind of mentality, but it's that a regime I certainly cannot do. Now, and again, I had a Giants, I have them all DNA tested, CAT scanned, the whole 9 yards. So scientific, rigorous validation, yeah, I think I had that. All right, so confirmation bias, their bias against me. You could sweep this right off the table. I have more evidence, scientific evidence, which is the DNA, the CAT scans, the specimens, they can all be retested. So that's off the table. That's all just nonsense. Now, scale and feasibility. Well, I didn't say it wasn't crazy. And I didn't say the scale wasn't crazy either. It is. There's no question about that. The idea of creatures large enough to form mountains or continents conflicts with biological, physical laws as understood by modern science. This is where it gets really funny. The size of such creatures would make basic functions like metabolism and structural support implausible. I hear from people, what about the law of this and that, about fluid, they can't breathe and they can't pump their blood and they can't do this and they can't do that. It's impossible. I said, well, what if it's there, it's there. I go by material evidence. Let me show you what is there. They say it's not possible to scale and feasibility. Let me show you some scale. You want to see some scale? You're about to see some scale. All right, here's another nonsensical statement. The size of such creatures would make basic functions like metabolism, structural support implausible. Well, maybe it is implausible. I didn't say it was obviously, it's something that's new. It's new. That's all. It's not implausible. It's just new. They never saw these creatures before, which you will see. Then it says what supporters say. Mud fossil researchers argue that mainstream science is dismissive, for you ain't lying, of unconventional evidence. relying on traditional paradigms and ignoring anomalies that challenge established theories. Now, not only, anyway, they advocate for more open-minded exploration, interdisciplinary approaches. I want to see the anatomy, I want to see the chemistry, I want to see the biology, I want to see the history, I want to see everything about it, the processes, how does it happen, what is nucleophilic substitution and invasion, what is solvomorphism, what is fascia-facilitated fossilization, what causes stabilization of these particles? How does a membrane work? What are transition metals? They don't know any of these things. Oh, I'm not an expert at this. I'm just an expert at saying something. That's my problem with anyway. Conclusion, mud fossil research offers a highly unconventional interpretation of Earth's structure, which I will just show you in a couple of minutes how highly unconventional it is, suggesting much of the planet, not much, all, is composed of fossilized biological material from ancient enormous creatures. While this perspective remains on the fringe and lacks mainstream scientific acceptance, it raises intriguing questions about Earth's history and the potential connections between mythology and geology. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Now, they're saying I have no evidence to support my statements. Listen to this. This is about Typhon. Now, Zeus was on the side of the gods, and they were against the giants. And Zeus, with Hercules, killed all the giants. They killed them all. Now, the giants were the offspring of Earth. Earth gave birth to that was Earth's children. And the gods came down and killed them all. And so what happened was, when the gods had overcome the giants, killed them all, Earth, the mother, was enraged and had intercourse with Tartarus and brought forth Typhon. All right, Typhon is the giant dragon. Now, it was a hybrid between man and beast. The only thing that was hybrid was the thighs. And look at what, this is exactly what it says. Listen to this. In size and strength, surpassed all the offspring of Earth. Now, only the thighs, that's the only thing they talk about that was human. The thighs were of human shape. And then it says how big it was, that outtopped all the mountains, his head off and brushed the stars, and he was, it says, from the thighs downward, he had huge coils of vipers, and they were all, had leather all over him. I could show that. Now, his body was all winged, unkempt, hair streamed on the wind from his head and cheeks, which I will show you. His fire flashed from his eyes. I will show you that. He was chasing after the gods, and he was spitting out kindled rocks. He made for the very heavens with hissing and shouts, spouting great jets of fire from his mouth. Now listen to this. When the gods saw him rushing at heaven, they made for Egypt in flight. Well, where is Egypt? I have some questions about that. Is it a place on Earth? I'm not sure that's exactly where they were headed. Anyway, they made for Egypt in flight. He was rushing at them into the heavens. And they made for Egypt in flight. They come down out of the heavens to Egypt, or did they go up to Egypt, which was in the heavens? This is something I'm looking into. But however, he was the dragon, offspring of Gaia, who was the earth, and made to avenge the killing of all her children. So he rushed at all the gods, and they ran like hell, and they turned themselves into animals. The being pursued, they changed their forms into those of animals. And then Typhon was killed by Zeus, and, well, whatever. At that point, it becomes a little cloudy. But up to that point where they changed themselves into animals, and Typhon chased them and got the fish, and the fish was Ares, and they said that Pan, one of the other gods, had tempted Typhon to come out with a banquet of fish. And he came out and attacked Ares, which is the fish in the desert, and he was killed. That's the story. Now let's see his flashing eyes. Let's see his winged, unkempt body. and his thighs and so forth. All right, I have Typhon outlined here. This is his throat. There's a yellow little flashy thing that comes down here, which is the source of the venom. That's how he spit out all his venom. Now, that right there is another little flashy thing that you see on the side of parades. Now, here's his red, glowing red eye and all the unkempt stuff. Here he is right here. Right? Here's his eye. I'm going to show you this really up close, but this just gives you the broad picture. Here's his red glowing eye flared back, which you will see. Here's his unkempt, flashing, fuzzy, whatever he's got there. This was that flashy little thing going down the whole length of his throat. This is his whole throat going way, 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 way back. There, and that's that yellow stuff right here that I showed, and that is the source of the venom. From here down is not him. This is just body fluids that are running off his dead body. Now, don't forget, there's his body, and there's the spit he spit out at the fish, which is underneath. And you say, Roger, what fish? Well, I'll show you the fish. First of all, let me show you what I was just talking about. These are the dragon scales. This is his dragon throat. And it heads up to his dragon head. All right. This is the source. This yellow flashy stuff is the source of the toxic fluids. And this other flashy looking one is, I'm not sure what. I got to look into that a little better. But that comes right up here too. Now, you see all that flashy looking orange stuff? Remember I showed you his head. There's his red eye. And there's that flaring red flashy stuff coming out of his eye. You see it? This is his eye right here. And out of his red flaring eye comes all of this stuff. It's exactly what they say. And here's this bump on his nose, and it comes back. This is all this flashy. They said he was all unkempt and so forth. Now, this is what he spit down at the fish. And this is his beards. Remember I said the yellow stuff is the toxin? Here it is right here. It's coming up here, and then it comes through into his beard. And there's two beards here. You see them? That's it. Those are beards. This one appears to have the really nasty toxin. This one's doing something crazy. I don't know what. Some of that stuff comes this way and feeds whatever this network is. I have no idea. It is the strangest thing I have ever seen, but I don't see a lot of dragons hanging around my backyard. But this is definitely a dragon. Now, what this did, I think it did something right in here. It caused some kind of a chemical reaction. And that, see how it's a greenish? There's some kind of a chemical reaction going on here. And that green stuff went over to feed this. It looks to me, because this is the source of the green stuff over on here. And that green stuff hooked up with some stuff coming out of his nose. I'm not kidding you. This is the stuff coming out of his nose. And it hooks up together here and creates the most nasty stuff you ever saw in your life. Look at this. That's what hit the fish. And I show you, when I say hit the fish, I'm talking hit the fish. Look at that. Look at that stuff. Now that's the toxic, nasty stuff that came down to try to kill that fish. And it did hit the fish, and it damaged them, definitely damaged them. And where's the fish? Right here. That right there is the fish. All right. I think it's a flatfish. I never could figure this out at first. I thought it had one eye here, and there would be an eye on the other side, and it would be a regular fish that swims. But I think it's a flatfish. And this is one eye, and that's the other eye. They have strange one globby looking eye. I don't know. That's all I can take from this. It's a big fish. And here's this fin up in the back. And the fin structure looks just like a flatfish. See how high up that fin goes and how wide it is all the way back? Flakes around, and it's got more fin around this side. They have big flat fins around the back of them. I think it's a flatfish. Now, and anyway, in the ancient text, it was Ares who changed himself or herself. I'm not sure whether it's a male or female, but Ares changed its godness into a fish. It was a fish. I mean, it was a god, and then it turned changed into a fish to try to get away from Typhon. Well, Typhon caught up with her and spit that stuff down. Now, you see, this is the fin. There's no question this fin is being attacked by that nastiness, which is nasty. There's no doubt. That's not your average unnasty stuff. This is the ugliest, nastiest stuff that there's ever been. Have you ever seen anything nastier than that? No. Don't lie to me. If you say yes, well, I'd like to see it. Now, so it's coming down, and wham! What does it do? It goes through the fin. I suppose the fin is damaged pretty severely, but it's more cartilage than it is flesh. However, right here is where the flesh starts. You see it? Right there. Now you're in trouble. Now you're into the blood vessels. You see that? That's blood vessels. You see those are blood vessels. I'm going to show you these in great, and even greater detail. So up here, we really don't have a whole lot of blood vessels. We just have a fin. So if we look to see what kind of damage we got going on here, we're just tearing up cartilage, basically. That's the way I see this. It's doing some serious damage. But what it's doing is it's tearing up these cartilage-ish looking things and destroying them. But that's not where your nutrition is. Once it hits this right here, you see it? That's the line of demarcation right up in here. And here is some serious redness. Now look at this. It's pouring its toxins in down here. Pouring it into this fish. You see it coming down here? Pouring it in. Pouring those toxins in. And it hits the fish down in here in its vital fleshy areas. And it pours that toxin in right into the fish's own arteries and blood vessels. And they're dead. It's killing them right now. They're killing these. Now, why can I say that? Well, you see behind here, there's just nothing there. It's just gray, dead flesh. If it was still alive, down below, it's still alive and is being penetrated. All right, let's look down here. I believe right in this area it's still alive, and we can see some really detailed biology. Like right in this area here. This is the artery. This is where red blood comes down. Now, it's being infected, yes, but it's still alive at this. I believe it's on the margin of dying and being alive. And here's why I can say that. You see all these little black strips here? These are veins. Those veins pull the blood back up to the heart to be recycled. Coming down here is literally artery blood. And all these little blobs of things in here are minerals and so forth to feed the creature. Now, the further we get down here, the redder it is. And the redder it is, that means the bloodier it is. The bloodier it is, that means more nutrition you have. So if we can get down away from the toxins as far as we can, we should be able to see some pretty good biology. So let's see if I can find a really good spot. All right, this is a pretty good shot right here. Again, Google Earth, and we're 500 meters up in the air. That's 1,500 feet, a quarter of a mile up looking down. Now, what are we seeing? These are the arteries. A ton of blood coming through. The red is the red blood. The little black things in here are things that are growing because it's still viable and has nutrition in it. Those are little bushes and things. Now, every one of them, you see how it breaks down into these little arterioles, little blood vessels that come down and hook up into these black stripes here. All right, every one of them has the same structure. Now, let's dig in deep. First of all, let's look at the artery. And what is this stuff? Those are bushes growing in here. Why are they only growing here? How come they're not growing into this black area? Well, the black area is used blood. This is good blood. This is you buy blood meal to feed plants. The red stuff here means the plants are going to grow in it. They want to be in that. Now, once you use up all the good red stuff and all of this stuff, it has to dump into a vein. All right, and they all dump into veins. You see them, every one of them has the same thing. They come down, they break off, they enter. These are capillaries, and these are the veins. Now, let's come up close to see if we can see something interesting here. All right, here's the deal. You got your artery coming down. You got your artery. Now, it breaks off, and in this area, it's still feeding some of the tissues. But it's just basically gone. Everything's gone out of it, and here it spits what's left out into the veins. Veins are porous. You see this? Every one of these has entries going right into that vein. I never realized this before until I really started digging deep. Veins are not like just a single tube. They're porous, and that's why all of that stuff from the capillaries can drain from here into the veins. Now, the other thing that is not understood, I don't think very well at all, is the lymphatic system. And I can see that in these pictures. I can actually see the lymph system. Not only can I see it, I can see it functioning against the attack of the venom. Your immune system is lymph. I'm telling you right now, that is your immune system. If something tries to invade you, the lymph fluid will attack it. And I can show you that happening because of that nasty, nasty, nasty stuff invading this fish. All right, we know this nasty stuff is coming down. Of that, there is no question. We know it's nasty. That's no question. What happens when it hits the fish? We see here it's sort of eaten through it, but not totally. Over here, it's totally a serious, serious situation. These black spots are lymph nodes. Well, what's a lymph node? A lymph node is where they take all the toxins in your body and dump it. And they're supposed to clean it up. If it gets overwhelmed and they don't have the biology to clean up the incoming toxins, or there's so many toxins, it'll kill the lymph nodes. These are all dead. They're all dead. They're not supposed to be dead. They are not supposed to be black. How did it start? Well, it started right here. Right there. You see that? That's where the invasion of this green stuff hit, right over here. You see the green stuff? All right. This right here is lymph fluid. And I'm going to show you something. Doctors don't understand this. Nobody understands this, and nobody's ever seen it before. Unless you've been following me. I've shown it a few times, but I'm going to show it again. It's time that we understand a human body or the body of creatures. How does the lymph fluids work? Well, first of all, I'm going to show you the lymph fluids over where the invasion site was, and then we're going to come back here, and I'll show you they can reform themselves to create an attack. Somehow they are knowledgeable. Okay, so at some point I have shown you that these are the red blood coming down. Things grow in the red blood. They don't grow where it's depleted. And these are the capillaries, so they get smaller and smaller and smaller. At the very tips of the capillaries, that's where your blood pressure is established, I believe, because how tight they pinch together. Now, at that same place, they expel a bunch of fluids, because there's a bunch of fluids you don't want just wasted, which is your lymph. Now you see these little tiny lines here? See all those little bitty lines all over the place? And this is literally the vein. It's dumping its fluids into the vein. However, just before it dumps, it picks up all of these lymph fluids, which are so tiny that they have to go into these tiny, tiny tubes. I call it a fluid-filled network. This was in my paper from 2015. I studied all this. I knew all about this because 2015 I found a fish, I found a dragon. I had been studying fascia for 5 years before that, or so, somewhere around there. But anyway, it dumps into here. So now, as far as I'm concerned, this is undeniable. We've got our artery blood, we've got our regular little blood vessels, then we go into our capillaries, they go into the veins. The veins go back to get cleaned up. Now, I said I would show you the invasion and that lymph fluid doing its job. Down here, you saw there was all kinds of just little tubes going everywhere. They're just living their own little life, having a nice time absorbing lymph. Now, what would happen if it got damaged over here? Would just the lymph from right over in this area come together and say, okay, well, we got to deal with this. Let's all get together and deal with it. Guess what? They would get everybody from this whole area to come in at the same time. How would they do that? I don't know. But I can show you it does happen. Don't forget now, here's the fish. We got Typhon up here. And he's spitting all this nasty stuff down. It's hitting here, and the fin, not a big deal. Flesh, big deal. Over here, the fluid is wiggling its way in. And here is the main invasion source right here. You see this? This is the green stuff. I showed you the green stuff. Now, let us focus in for a second, because this is really important. You see this and you understand what's exactly happening here. We have this green toxin. Just think of it as a venom. It's a venom. And it's coming down and it's invading this fish's tissue. What is this? What is this? That's a torrent. A torrent of lymph. It's a torrent. And it's coming up and saying, all right, I get some, I'll get some. Come on, take it over there, get it over there. What are you going to do with it? Well, you got to take it to the lymph node to get it cleaned up. Look at this. This is not natural. Look at how it created a huge fluid-filled highway. Look at this. Just think about this now, rationally. Where I showed you before, you don't have any of this kind of stuff going on. This somehow all told all the guys together and said, bring all that lymph up in here. We got problems. And it hit, and over here too. It's trying to stop. It's all over here. It's trying to brace against this, but this is the real killer right here. Now, so all of this stuff had to come somewhere. Where did it go? It went to these guys. And who are those guys? Those are the lymph nodes. And what do lymph nodes do? Lymph nodes are the garbage dump. They bring in the nastiest of the nasty, and it comes in and it fills into this node, which I will show you in a second. And there's filters and there's all kinds of things. And then inside the node, it has to do some chemistry. So there's some serious biology inside that node, which needs some serious enzymes to break down this, whatever it is. Now, sometimes you don't have the enzymes at all, so you just go overwhelmed and you get lymph node cancer, lymph cancer, lymphoma. If you can't protect yourself against the invasion, this is lymphoma right here. This is totally lymphoma. So here's what happens. This nasty stuff is coming down and invading, coming down, and it's carrying all this nasty, nasty, nasty stuff with it. You see, that's the nasty stuff. What it is, I don't know. But it wants to get it out of the body. So it's dragging it down, dragging it down, dragging it down. And it's bringing that nastiness down to the lymph node. So nastiness is being consumed, brought down, around and around and around, over to the lymph node. Here it comes down to the lymph node. Now, what do we see here? That's all this nasty, nasty, nasty stuff coming in. Now guess what? That's supposed to come out over this side clean. It's not. It's dead. So it's coming in over here. And it's trying to filter out all the nastiness. And then inside here, it would deal with it. So here it comes. It's coming in and it's trying to stop with these filters. See the little filters? They block out all the big stuff. So my interpretation of this is that you can't have that destructive stuff just laying here forever. So it's probably going to slowly enter there as it gets evaporated, but there's so much it can't deal with it. Now coming out this side, it's supposed to be nice and pink and beautiful. It's not. It's dead. It's coming out black. It's coming out black. All right, and that's because this part right here was supposed to clean it up, and this part right here is dead as a doornail. When it turned black like that, it ain't working no more. All right, that's supposed to clean this stuff up. Can't do it now. So it doesn't come out here clean. Comes out here dead. Comes in nasty. Now, is this the only lymph node that's being attacked? No. We're trying to use the whole row of them. See this one coming down? Same thing. Whamma, lamma, jamma. Same deal. It's got the same, it's the same architecture. Everything's the same. There's no difference whatsoever. It has the same, webbing here for the filtration. Everything's trying to get in to get cleaned up, and it's dead. Dead, 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 and deader. So out this side, nothing, dead. Now, what do we got the next one? Same thing. Same thing. Same thing. Same thing. They're all dying. They're all dying. So that's about the best I can do to show you that the lymph is exactly what I had stated in my paper in 2015. I said it comes together as one giant system to protect the body in this fluid-filled fiber network that can reconfigure itself instantly, is what I said. And then I also said it appears that it might act as a fiber optic network where it can communicate to each other and they can work as a system because it comes together as one giant system, which now they call the interstitium, which is this giant fluid-filled highway. I wrote that paper 2015. They acknowledged it in 2018. They said yes, and it should be considered a new organ. And on top of that, I discovered that on each one of these little body parts that attach to other body parts, there's a latch. And then two little fluid-filled tips come out. So I think every bag has its own type of fluid. And somehow, the little two, when they come out of there to go to the next fluid-filled bag, which might be your lungs or your heart or your liver, from your kidneys, let's say, somehow that chemistry changes. Because this chemistry here might be acid. This chemistry might be salts. You can't have this chemistry that protects this bag the same as this chemistry that protects an opposite type of chemistry. It won't work. And that's why there's 100 cancers. Every chemistry bag has its own special chemistry. If you don't have the right bacteria creating the right enzymes to protect you in that fluid-filled membrane, because that's where they live, you're not going to be protected, and you're going to be invaded, and you're going to have some form of a invasive disease. Could be cancer. But I'm showing they work together. I can't see how you can see any other possibility than them working together. You see that? They all came up here at the same time. They weren't here just laying around waiting. I mean, there's enough of them, but they're certainly not like that. Not like any of this. This is all coming together to protect you. Normally they're just little fluidy things laying around like this here. Gotta let it settle in, but all they are is just little tiny tubes that absorb the excess fluids that you don't want to drain back into your veins. You see how tiny these tubes are? It's going to take forever to sink into it, but you know, it'll do it. We'll just have to take our time. The lymph tubes, this might be damaged tissue here. It might already damage the lymph tubes. Yeah, you really don't see too much in that particular one. It's already been damaged. But when you get to where you can see it, they're out here driving in the desert. Anyway, you saw the lymph before. I can't find a good spot, but it's the lymph is right at the vein. When the vein absorbs the leftovers, the lymph takes away the finest lymphatic fluids, which are where your ribosomes are, where your enzymes are, where your bacteria are, single cell things that protect you. You don't want those getting flushed through your heart. You want those coming back into your system through the lymphatic system. This is so incredibly cool. I can't believe this. I have always looked for the capillaries coming off of the blood vessels and then dumping into the veins. They all do it, you know, right into the veins, right into the veins. I've always looked for that. I never thought anything about it. Look at this. Look at this. This is like a pond. This is like a pond full of lymph, and then the pond drains right here. Now let's look at this pond a little closer. Here's all your blood vessels coming down. They have to dump that fluid somewhere, the vein fluid. Now it's dumping right into these are little tiny veinlets, little bitty ones, and I believe these are too. But it's got to get down here. You see it coming down here like in a torrent? And it's going to dump right into this vein, this big black puddle here. And then it takes it away. That's why it's a little darker and deeper here, because it's coming in with this whole influx of fluids. You see them you can see them how they're sort of draining down that direction. And they're puddling here and there. At some point in time, I don't know what they're doing now, but then I realized that this isn't the only one. Here's another one right here. They're all puddling down. Well, that one there is not like this other one. It's more of what I normally see. Maybe that is the only one. I'm telling you, this stuff, it just drives me crazy. Looking at this stuff all day, and that's about what I do now, is I try to study the ancient texts, the ancient stories, what is actually here, what was spoken about, and what makes sense. Now, it doesn't make sense. I can't believe these things really exist other than that they're here. If I couldn't show myself proof, and I couldn't see dragon scales like these, and I couldn't see a dragon throat like that, and I couldn't see the red flared eye that Apollodorus talks about, all right? And I couldn't see his unkempt, flared body, and his throat goes all the way down to his gut, which is way down here, and then his tail goes out past his butt, which has a pooper in here, and I can see it, and it is an avian style or reptile. It's got a cloaca. And then way out here, it's still got his tail, And out there, it's got the swale in the tail. And what does that mean, Roger? Well, it means that it's coming down like this, and the blood is swaling down into the tail and draining out. And those are the dragon-scaled tail. Now, at the very end, it flares out into feathers. Way out here, it's just got feathers. And you can come up and play around and look around, but you look around and you see these are feathers. Trust me, I know about feathers. Now, I'm just saying, this thing's 1,100 miles long. And that's what the ancient text said. He says his head often brushed the stars. Now, I don't know where the stars were at that time, but his head could have done it. I mean, this is damn pretty close, or maybe that's an exaggeration. I don't know. But I can find his thighs. These are the human thighs. And that's the only thing that was human. Nothing else was human. Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. This mud fossil discovery is the biggest discovery in human history, without a doubt. None of these people knew anything. Well, they knew these things were sort of true-ish, but they didn't know the details like I know now. They didn't understand. Like all the ancient texts talk about him being half human and and he had a human head and all this stuff. And you go back and you look at all the ancient texts, they still didn't know. And even at the time of Julius Caesar and the Roman Empire and so forth, when they were invading places, they would say, we had a god here and he was a giant and all that, and they would just laugh at him. And they actually, I can't remember where it was, but one place they said, we have you can't desecrate this mound, this is our giant, he was our founding father, and a huge, gigantic thing. And they said, bullshit, you guys are crazy. And they dug it up, and they did find it was a giant creature, and they buried it with much fanfare. Now, the academics say, oh yeah, they just lied to him to try to appease him, to make him happy. There was nothing there. They just faked it. Well, no, I'm showing things that are real. I'm not faking a damn thing. And these were the things that were written about. All of this stuff was written about. And there's the fish that was written about. Pan, which was a god or a demigod, I can't remember, but it was one of the god-ish creatures, tempted Typhon somehow, through some way, I don't know how, to come out with a banquet of fish. That's what it says in the ancient text. And this looks like he was trying to banquetize that fish. Okay, my friends, I don't know if I've shown you yet, but for 10 years I've had the particles they're touting they just discovered. Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory, which I presented my particles to 10 years ago, is supported by the Office of Science of the U.S. Department of Energy. Now listen to this. The Office of Science is the single largest supporter of basic research, which is what I do, in the physical sciences in the United States, and is working to address some of the most pressing challenges of our time. For more information, please visit science.energy.gov. Well, I have, I think, maybe solutions to some of these things, and I have been ignored by this very place, Fermi Lab, for 10 years. Now, they're claiming today that they have discovered the first neutrinos detected. This is just September 2024. Well, I have shown you we found neutrinos long ago. And this is what I am claiming we might be able to do, is because what are they talking about a neutrino? There's electron neutrinos and there's muon neutrinos. One of them is the black one, has all the mass and no energy, and it's fixed. And the white one has all the glowy energy. The black one you don't see until it's on top of the white. That's the key. We could see it because it's sitting on top of the white, obscuring the white. Otherwise, you're never going to see the black. The black doesn't emit, it doesn't absorb, and it doesn't reflect. Can't see it. It's part of the dipole electron. We never knew it was there before. It's part of photons, it's part of electrons, and it's half of everything. which means there's a dipole, which makes up everything. It's like all of these little tiny dipoles, which they are. They're magnets, dipoles. See? All right, and you get 1,823 of these little, or, well, I say 1839 now. Let's go with 839. It could be different, but let's go with 1839. And at that exact point, electron is stable. You could still have this thing working with a couple missing. That's called an isotope. Or a few extra that shouldn't be there. That's also called an isotope. But when it's just exactly the right number, that's called stability. The isotopes have half-lives. They decay. They either go up if they have way too many particles. When they decay, they don't decay down. They decay up to the next one up in the periodic table. So like phosphorus could decay easily up to sulfur. No problem. And in a boiling situation, heating, it would decay down to aluminum and silicates. And that's the process for the mud fossils. Anyway, I'm pretty up on this stuff pretty good. And I think there's a possibility we get free energy right there, because there's no weight to that whatsoever and all energy. And if you put it in a box like this with thousands of these little tiny lasers and receivers and pump them down through some kind of photodiode into a whatever you want to do, and you could have all this, just plug it right in here and just use it right out of the box. Or run it off into some kind of gigantic batteries, whatever you want to do. If you had a bunch of these in a car, you just never have to stop from driving, I wouldn't think. Because if this makes more energy than it takes, you're golden. And originally I thought it would give up about 200 times the input. So I'm showing 5 watts of laser power would generate 1,000 watts of energy. That's not bad. If you could do that, just think about it. You never have to stop. You never have to do anything. Once you build them, you just go away. Now, people say, oh, people won't allow that. They won't come and kill you for saying. I've been saying this for 10 years. I'm still breathing oxygen, so that's all I can tell you. And I'm telling you right now, none of us will be breathing oxygen before too long, the way things are going. The Earth is in desperate times infinity trouble. And it's because we are scrubbing way too hard through the not vacuum of space. This isn't a vacuum. They know it's not a vacuum. It's insanity to say it's a vacuum. As a matter of fact, I told you I could show you it's not a vacuum, and it's saturated with fields. Anytime you move a particle through a field, it pushes it back. That's called resistance. Okay, so I did ask it what would happen if electron flood theory was correct, and it says basically everything would change. I'm just going to give you the highlights because it goes on for quite a while. It says redefining atomic theory. Everything has to change. The standard model's wrong. It's dipole electron flood theory. And subatomic particles are not just protons and neutrons, currently understood, quarks and clusters. They're dipoles. Now, revising fundamental forces, electromagnetism as the primary force. And I showed dark matter and the dipole interaction between the non-material force, which is the glowy white part, has no substance whatsoever other than just energy. I can't explain it. And the black is just solid mass and has no energy unless it's moving, and then it has dark push. It doesn't have any glow. It doesn't have anything other than it's extremely attractive to the white forces. That's what creates electricity. The white is all by itself over here. No mass whatsoever in your battery. None. Zero. And the motor is over here to run your wheels. And it says, hey, I want to go. The electrons go. The electrons have no mass. No mass whatsoever. So the battery doesn't weigh. No weight. It goes over here and goes through the motor, and then the wheels drive. That's all. It wants so badly to get back to that dark matter that the white matter just go through anything. If you were in the middle, it go right through you. And it makes those tires go like crazy. Energy is, electricity, and all it is massless. So you drive all day long, your tires are going, doing all kind of work. Never change the weight of that car. Not a bit. Fill it back up, doesn't change. The white has no mass. So all this stuff has got to be changed. It's distinct, strong, and weak nuclear forces. Gravity, I can explain that. Quantum mechanics, that's all got to be changed. Impact on energy and mass, yeah, this has all got to be revised. It's not E equals MC squared, it's nonsense. Energy technology. If electrons are the sole constituent of matter, which they are, but they're dipoles, new methods of energy extraction might emerge. Yes, just what I've been showing you. Cosmology and the universe, the Big Bang, somehow all this stuff is here. I say it's controlled by gods. That I'm almost 100% certain of. How they got here, I don't know. That stuff, I don't know. Require all new interpretation in this framework. Dark matter and dark energy. It offers an explanation for these things. It absolutely does. Technology implications, material sciences, all kinds of stuff changes because of enzyme-based isotope changes. That is a lot of things. Electronics, quantum computing. All that stuff they're trying to do with entanglement, that's all nonsense. Medicine and biology, all that stuff has to change. All we really need to know is what bacteria exists in a person's body. Bacteria, fungi, all that stuff, which creates chemistry within your body, which affects your body. And you need all of these good bacteria to create enzymes, which enzymes do the extremely elegant chemistry. It's called click chemistry. Everything changes from dipole electron flood theory. Everything. See this? Potentially leading to novel treatments and diagnostic tools. Yes. Which is, we want to examine the feces. What's in your feces? What bacteria is living in you? Then we can decide if you have the right kind of bacteria to create the right kind of enzymes to do the right kind of chemistry. That's why there's over 100 types of cancers. Why? Every single organ has its own bag, literally, and I've shown this too, and its own separate bag of chemistry. So that's why when one of them gets, and every cancer is invasion through the membrane into the good tissue, and that's what stage 1 is, halfway through 2, 3, and 4, and when it gets all the way through the membrane, it starts growing inside your good tissues. Then you're in trouble. Then they get big. But as they're starting to get through, they're just sort of nibbling their way through. At that point, they're supposed to be attacked by your healthy tissues. I mean, your lymph, which is all the bacteria and enzymes and all that. And you have so much lymph in you. If you have any of these good enzymes, you should be able to attack and protect yourself. But if you don't have the right bacteria, you don't have the enzymes. You're unprotected. They call that, you're open to invasion. What the hell do they call it? I can't remember now. It's a pre-existing condition. All right, so we know that the physics has to change. We know that biology has to change. We have to change the entire field of physics. Would require a fundamental rewrite. Everything. Unified model based on electron would replace the complexity of the standard model. The standard model is so complex, it's ridiculous. Interdisciplinary effects, chemistry, biology, engineering need to integrate this new understanding of matter. Challenging to existing paradigms. Experimental validation. I've shown it. The theory would need substantial empirical evidence. That's what I need somebody to do. I can't do that. Even if I did it, and I did, I showed it, they don't take it. They just won't even pay attention to it. Particle accelerators, all you need is a venturi. Experiment would need a reinterpretation to align with the electron flood theory. Resistance from the scientific community. Boy, you ain't lying. As with any paradigm shift, the theory would face significant skepticism and resistance until robust experimental proof and predictive power are demonstrated. That's what I need Elon Musk to do. Because I can't do it. I don't have the resources and nobody pays attention. This would be the unified physics. This is the theory of everything, and it does. It is the theory of everything. It brings up philosophical questions. What about where did we come from? Now listen to this. This is the conclusion, and this is a stunner, a stunner. If electron flood theory were proven correct, it would fundamentally transform our understanding of the universe, uniting many aspects of physics into a simpler, electron-based framework. It would be one of the most profound discoveries in human history. I like the sound of that. Let me read that again. It would be one of the most profound discoveries in human history, requiring rethinking of science, technology, philosophy on a scale comparable to or even greater than the Copernican revolution or Einstein's theories of relativity. Einstein was wrong about everything. So please don't compare me to Einstein. Anyway, it's once again, Mudfossil theory changes everything in this realm, everything on all that stuff. Chemistry, biology, history, mythology, religion, anthropology, archaeology, human development, evolution, giants, dragons, myths, and the physics is one of the most profound discoveries in human history. Boy, I like the sound of that. Okay, I think this has gone on long enough. Now, here is the question. Is President Trump and Musk and all the other people capable of absorbing this truth? And like I said, I started it out by saying there was a great flood, just as was predicted in the Bible. There was giants, just as predicted in the Bible. There was giants in the earth before. There was giants in the earth. And then there was giants after that when the sons of God, the fallen angels, went into the daughters of men. Everything lines up. And that giant flood was just enormous. And as I showed here, these people were living way up under these cliffs, and the water level was right about here. Well, first of all, it was probably right about here. And then they eventually had to make steps going into Never Never Land. You don't just come down here and then jump off into the Never Never Land. I mean, I can't believe they don't understand what's happened there. You don't come down here and you come down and just jump off. And it's become hard to get home every night and hard to get home from here unless the water was up here. You could fish and do all kinds of, have a wonderful time paddling around. And they didn't have fire then because there was no oxygen level enough to make fires. And as the plants and everything started to come back, the oxygen level grew, and then they could make fires. And then after that, they could make copper because they had enough oxygen to smelt copper, but that's all. And then they had enough to do the bronze, and that was when the Bronze Age and Brass Age came in. And then they had enough to do the Iron Age. And it was just as soon as the oxygen levels increased, they could do more smelting. And that's why you see the big, the paddles. They're just pushing more and more and more and more oxygen into that. So when the oxygen levels were up already, they could just, and then they got iron and they could go kill everybody. So anyway, that is, it's time to take this serious, and I want to be part of President Trump's new Department of Education, and I want to show my evidence that if you look up on ChatGPT or whatever, ask him about Roger Spurr. What's his interpretation of this? What does he think about that? I don't think anything's right that we're taught right now. Global warming is the scrubbing of our ionosphere into the particles in space, which space is not a vacuum. Absolutely no way. It is particles all over the place, winking out of existence as they're getting hit by the light, which is shooting out from the sun, because it is also scrubbing intensely. And this is a solar eclipse. And this is all where the light is coming out of here. That's the poles of the sun, and the sun is spinning in this direction, going that way. And how can I say that? Because of this. You see that red spot, red spot, red spot? Let me bring it a little closer. The poles, anybody can see that, obviously. They're shooting straight up and straight down. So that's the poles. All right, so what does that mean? If it has poles, it's spinning. So what does that mean? It means the most scrub will be on the surfaces, on the edges. Well, So what? Well, how come this one has these red spots and this one doesn't have them? Think about it for a minute. Why would you say that? You see the red spots. I'm sure you do. Run your mind on that for 1 second, all right? Why would that happen? And why is one down here, and one up there? Seems kind of patterned. And there's none here. Here's the reason. We are moving through the solar system on the arm of the Milky Way. So the sun is spinning on its own axis, and that I'm pretty damn sure about. Well, I'm positive of it, and they know about it. They can see that. And it's spinning on its own axis, which creates the magnetic fields, and then it's moving this way through the galaxy. And the reason I can say that is because this side of it is spinning. It's spinning this way. Why? What does that mean? It means that this side is pushing in against the stuff that's coming at it because the sun is moving this way. So the stuff that's in front of it is moving at it, and the sun's hitting it this way as it spins. All right, here's the deal. The sun and all of us are going through the Milky Way on the arm of the galaxy. The sun leads us, and we're trying to catch up to it. And we're spinning around it as it is spinning on its own axis. And you see the scrub of the sun, all the particles coming off? They call that the solar wind. Well, it's just that that's the spot that scrubs hardest. Where it makes the most impact, you're going to get the most reaction. And that I can prove too. I can show you that here on Earth. All right, so just think of this. We're on one of these arms of the Milky Way, and we're spinning, and everybody is doing the same thing. We're all moving in one direction, spinning around this core, which is going to be a lot of black matter. Dark matter sucks the white. The white really wants to be attracted to the black, so it tries to get its way in there, but everybody else is trying to push it away. So that's why you get these stripes. White particles hate each other. That's why they end up being in these stripe effects. Now, if we are in one of these areas, we're coming into open space, we're not going to have a lot of interaction in the atmosphere, which would be a good thing. But what if we're in one of these places where we got a lot of dense space? And there is dense space, trust me. I can show you pictures of that too. I have everything that I am saying proven. I can show you. Now, so we're spinning. Everything's going around in a circle around the sun. The sun's spinning in a circle because it's impacting whatever's in front of it, and it's pushing it to make it spin. It's like a tire rolling down the road. That's what we're doing too. We're rolling down the road. And that's why when when Venus almost hit Earth stood still. They said, Earth, stop spinning. They said, well, why would it start spinning again? Well, because it's being pushed against the particles that are in front of it. It's turning it like this. It's moving this way. It's going to turn it and spin it. Eventually it will start spinning again, and it will start rotating faster and faster and faster until it gets up to what its normal spin, like it's going down a hill at 30 miles an hour. It just never goes faster than that, but that is the speed of the rolling around our orbit. Basically, that's all it is. So the Earth could completely stop, and we could have a completely devastating flood, and because of the impact, everything would boil, just as the ancient text said. Everything would flood, just as the ancient text said. Everything would stabilize into the mud fossils, just as Roger says. And even they all say it now. MIT says the ocean's boiled. Colburn Bible, all of them said the ocean's boiled. Yale agrees that the mud fossils are real, but they were all before there was even life on Earth, is what they're saying. They were nothing but slimy little creatures. No, they know, because I presented them with all my evidence, CAT scans, DNA, and everything. And again, this is one of the biggest rip-offs in history. This is the biggest discovery in human history. It's the biggest discovery in human history. And even ChatGPT says the same thing. It exceeds all the other discoveries. If mud fossils was true, or at least it's right in that vein somewhere. I quote what they say somewhere, but it's a pretty powerful statement. because it changes everything. Everything. Dragons, giants, monsters, biology in space. The planets are biology. I don't know how far to go with this because you can only get so far, and it just gets over and over and over. But anyway, I'm going to be getting into the way the Earth creates its own issues here, spinning through space. And when the sun hits it, how it glows, and how the turmoil changes as it hits up here, because it's only spinning a little bit. Over here, it's all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. Up here, it's going na 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 na. In 24 hours, it goes about 200 miles. Here, it's going 25,000 miles around. So there's a lot of scrub. Plus, this is the impact zone, is where all your heat is. You see all that heat? That's our atmosphere. And what happens is we've been burning so much, the atmosphere is growing out to this big. And the more it grows, the harder it scrubs. The harder it scrubs, the more heat you get. The more heat you get, the more global warming. And here's what happens. It's a dipole deal. They don't understand this. They just don't understand dipoles. Right here in this layer, it's 1,500 degrees Celsius. That's about damn near 3,000 degrees. And everything gets burnt up in here. It destroys meteorites and all that stuff. They have to shield so they can get through this. Don't tell me they can't get through that. You could call that a firmament if you want, because this is the layer that scrubs against outer space, which is not empty. It has a ton of stuff out there. But as we, as a big, huge thing, go plowing through this, this gets up to hotter than hell, 1,500 degrees. On the other side of the Earth, where it's not scrubbing, it's way less. Now, not way less, but let's say hundreds of, maybe 1,000 degrees. I don't know, but it's not the 2,700 degrees. 2,700 degrees is when the sun is hitting it, and we're scrubbing through that. Now, in nighttime, it's less, but not all that less. Now, what happens just below that? Look at this, minus 80 degrees. Minus 80, that's over 100, I think it's 112 degrees below zero. This is 2,700 degrees above. The hotter this gets, the colder this gets, believe it or not. And you say, how could that be? How could this get hotter and this get colder? The reason is it's a dipole. So the more heat particles you get, the more dark particles you get. The dark particles are absolute zero. They have no temperature whatsoever. They are absolute zero. But between the two of them, those dipoles, you got hotter than hell and colder than cold. If you could take every single electron out away from the dark particles, you would have absolute zero, because there'd be no energy. There's no energy there at all. Absolute zero means absolutely zero electrons, extra electrons. You'd still have your basic particles, which would be a ton of electrons. You still have them, but you wouldn't have any extra ones floating around. You pull them all out. You keep sucking them out, and it gets down, and all of a sudden stops. You say, why did it stop? Because you can't get any more particles out of there. There's none left. That's absolute zero. It means absolutely no extra floaters in there. There's nothing floating around in there. And then what happens? It becomes superconductive. Why, Roger? Well, because it doesn't have any of these, and everything wants these. That's why it's so hard to make that thing get down to absolute zero. You got to suck energy out of there like unbelievable. So as soon as you put electricity to it, superconducting. That's why they're superconducting. Gone. And then instantly resistance starts to form to slow it down. So you got to keep adding more and more cold. And cold just means you're dragging more and more electrons out. It's a never-ending cycle of pulling electrons out and pushing them in. So I don't think you're going to get anywhere with this superconductor. Now, you could get better and better and better metals and materials that can conduct electricity better with less and less resistance to the flow. Yes. And then you're getting more and more and more towards superconductivity. Yes. you will never get superconductivity, which means a free flow of electrons are just going to go all, no problem whatsoever. No, that's not going to happen. Well, not in my world. So anyway, it's hot, it's cold, and then it's hot again, and that's where we are. So the hotter it gets here, the colder it gets here. The colder it gets here, the hotter it gets here, and the hotter it's on Earth. And then that heat is supposed to be absorbed by the Earth. Well, the Earth is getting too hot by itself. The Earth is just too many electrons. So it's so hot that the tundra is melting. We're having all kinds of global scrubbing, and all this, because this scrubs harder and harder as this gets hotter and hotter, denser and denser, scrubber and scrubber, hotter and hotter on the surface. Melting tundra, releases of tons and tons of methanes are being released now. Methane is the big danger now. Carbon dioxide is a very dangerous thing because it expands and pushes out further and further, so we scrub harder and harder. However, methane is just as bad, or it's probably going to be much worse, because the entire frozen areas are now, all that biology is now rotting. I mean, literally rotting and starting to decompose as it becomes unfrozen, just like you took something out of a refrigerator. And that's what's belching these methanes out of these sinkholes in Russia and so forth. And I know about that very well. I studied those sinkholes, and I actually talked to the Russians about them. When they exploded, You know, why would a sinkhole explode? You say a sinkhole sinks. No, it doesn't. Not all of them. Some of them just sink. But these were exploding. And they wanted some explanation. I actually talked to one of the Russians about it. Nice guy. But I don't know whether he took me serious or not, because I told him, I said, this is biology. And this thing is, and I went through the whole, I didn't go real deep because, you know, people just, you know, this was back in 2014, I think, when the sinkholes started to appear on the Yamani Peninsula. And I was basically the only one talking about sinkholes at that time, because I saw this guy fell through his bed and was gone in Florida. And then I started looking into sinkholes. They're all over the world. And I just kept getting deeper and deeper. And then a Japanese researcher I spoke with, he was on Nova on TV, and we discussed the sinkholes, and he said, you know, I was wrong. He said he was wrong, not me. He said, you're right, I was wrong. They don't form. He said it was trickling water and doing this and that. And I said, I don't think so. And he said, you're right. He says, talk to the Russians. The Russians want to know about this. So I did. I talked to the Russians, and I don't know how they felt, but it is what it is. And now they have them all over the place because the tundra is sinking. It's like a fabric that was frozen. It's like ice. And all of a sudden it melts. Instead of falling, it pops up because now it's weak and the gases are expanding so much. Pow! And that's what the first one I saw. It was stunning, but I could see it had all of these little balls inside of it. This was in the winter. It had all these balls, frozen balls inside of it. And I knew exactly what they were. It was where the I call it biodigesters. Now, since then, I have realized that I believe those are blood vessels that are coming out from that gigantic artery or lung or whatever it was. Could be an alveoli, could be gigantic arteries, I don't know. But it is biology, and as that methane expands, she's going to pop. And it's just expanding all over the world. It's not there, it's just everywhere. You see this? After I started posting the pictures of the gravity fields that we found, Dylan Carpenter, specifically from New Zealand, was taking pictures with a cell phone. He's got a new cell phone. He's Rod Warren's nephew. So he sends me these pictures, not these. These are from CERN or somebody. I don't know who came up with these, but you see this is a white one, that's a black one. As I kept saying, there's dipoles and they flood the universe, and even stars and all that stuff are made out of dipoles. All of a sudden I see these show up. Now they're showing these two particles basically entangled, which are, I suppose, like stars or planets or something, and they call these gravity waves. But this is a simulation. They have no pictures of this. Guess what? I do. See, now don't forget, this is what they're claiming. Watch, I can show you what it looks like, and I believe it's Venus. You see that? That is a dipole on steroids. Now, it has its polarity. You see the polarity? There's the dipole field right straight up through the center. That's the polar field. It's spinning, and this is the moon. Now, the field is impressed over the top of the moon, but I don't know if it's in a ball shape. We're seeing it in a 2D dimension here. And all of these other particles here, these are all dipoles as well. These are all dipoles. Black and white. I've seen this is there is nothing but dipoles. There is nothing but dipoles. Now, you see the moon? This is where it comes in strange. What's going on there? What's going on here? Anytime you see white, there's energy. Something's in between us and the moon, or it's on top of the moon. That's all I can say. I don't want to go any further with that. These are dipoles. That's a dipole. And do you see the fields that surround everything? Those fields are not nothing. Those fields, if I push through that field, it's going to go boing, 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 boing. Just as they're expanding, as they're getting out, they're getting slower and slower and slower. All right, here they're tighter than hell. Very, very tight. And then as they get out, they keep hitting things. Bang, 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 boom, boom, boom. Done. And that's the outside of the field. Now, the reason I say that this is likely Venus is because Venus spins backwards, and it may have two magnetic fields. One of them, because it's spinning backwards, it should be rolling down just like all the rest of them, like rolling around, like you roll down a hill, like a tire rolling forward. It's rolling backwards, but it's going forward. It's going with the motion of everybody else is going. But everybody else is going this way and spinning so that they're just basically rolling on that like a round wall out here. And they're just rolling around it like they're driving around it. Venus is going backwards, but it's still going in that direction. It's scrubbing like hell. That's why this is so intense, this field. And then you see this field. Well, what's going on with that? Same polarity, right down the line. Right down the line, you can see it. Right down the line. Why? How could that possibly be? You could have one field and have another. You can see, obviously, there's a separation in the fields here. Something's different here than that one. Now, I don't know what else to look for to find something that would indicate that it is Venus, and the two fields are. All I can say is I can't think of any other reason that you would see two fields other than if it was spinning backwards and moving forward, where it should have been spinning the other direction. Because the other ones are all right. I think I showed you this one, didn't I? There's no two fields here. You see this? I don't know where there's a planet on the other side of the moon, and we're seeing its field. Now, I don't know what's going on there, but I don't see another field in the middle of it, like we saw for Venus, which is if it is Venus. But all of these are, they're all dipoles. They're basically all dipoles, and this is a really oddball looking thing here. I don't know what to make of that. And so is these. I got some ideas. I got some serious ideas, but they're just ideas. But I can tell you what, there's nothing that's going to go through that's not going to be affected by these fields. These are magnetic bumps. And whatever goes through there is going to slow down. That's what the redshift is. When we measure things that we think are being pulled away from expansion, no. They're coming like this. All right, they're coming out of their respective emitters of light. So what are they? What's that? Suns and stars. And when they come out strong. But they go bump, 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 bump. And by the time they hit us, they shifted way down to red. They might have started out blue. And by the time they hit us, they're down to red. That's what the red shift is. These things could be right down the street. We have absolutely no idea. When you look through the universe, you're not looking through nothing. And they look through this, oh yeah, look, we got light coming. And it's going, now they're saying it's speeding up as it's going away. No, it's just slowing down more and more and more and more. How could it speed up going away? It's just absolutely insane. And they're touting every day about how the Webb telescope, we can see everything. Now we know it's a bazillion, trillion, gazillion years old. And, you know, it was on a Thursday afternoon. It was kind of cloudy. And then the universe had a big bang. And, you know, and then there was a whole bunch of slime running around. And before long, we were making atomic bombs and doing all that stuff. This is the problem. Academia is so off the charts about this, they just can't handle this. And then when you throw in about all of the flood, just think about this. Why would they put these steps here? What are you going to do? Come down here and jump off the cliff? It's about 300 feet straight down. There's nowhere to go. There was water up here at one point. And they had a dock down here, probably. I don't know. And they came their boats home, and eventually global drying. Right now we got global warming. Back there, after the flood, there was global drying. It all settled down. And before they said, get the hell out of here. There's no reason to stay up here anymore. And they went down, and then they finally started living somewhere else. But in the meantime, they had it pretty good, I would imagine. You'd probably do some fishing, some swimming. I don't know. But eventually the water went down and they carved that down. There is no other explanation. Zero. None. And this was at the time of the Great Flood, is my interpretation of this. And this was a straight up and down wall. They're not going to carve those steps and then go jumping off of that wall. I don't see any reason you jump off that wall, do you? So don't forget, these are two of the biggest discoveries in human history. That's exactly what Chat says. That's not my words. I like the words. I didn't say them, though. But I am saying them now, because it is. It changes everything. And we are being denied. Denied. I showed this for 10 years to Fermilab. And today, we just found neutrinos. I can squirt neutrinos all day long. And I just showed you that. There's no question about it. It's undeniable. So what is a neutrino? Well, these are neutrinos. Right here. That's an electron neutrino, a muon neutrino. Simple as that. And a muon neutrino, see it? Muon neutrino. Goes on to stay just like it was, a black ball. It's a fixed particle, just keeps going. The white one says, no, I'm going to hit a bunch of white fields, and I can't stand that. You get away from me. And it just splashes all into all these other people. Now, the beauty of what we're doing is not only does it splash into it, it slams into it. Why? Because we're using a pulsed laser. It slaps very quickly, and the particles keep shooting down here. Now, what happens? Because it's pulsed, the black particles can't get through, and they end up becoming like a paddle. Bam, 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 bam. They can't get through. So what happens? The white particles can. It slaps them through and squirts it out of there with a vengeance. I don't see why we can't just harvest it right there. Put a little harvester here, right here. Come straight down and harvest that. I need Elon Musk to look at this. He's got engineers. He's got guys that should know about this. It's called Dipole Electron Flood theory. It's my theory. I've had it for over 50 years. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I deserve a little respect from my government. I pay taxes. I'd like to see this addressed. And I know Elon Musk and President Trump are speaking about the Department of Education. I'd like to see that revamped, quite obviously. And I would like to see specifically Yale sued for a minimum $5 billion. And all I want is $100 million, which is, oh yeah, and it is another $4.9 billion that Trump and the rest of his boys can do whatever they want with it. I want Mudfossil University to be a regular university, which means I'm going to have people, staff, which I never had before, and I don't have now, and I really don't want. And I don't want to be involved in any, I'm too old to get deep into this. I like to do the research. I love the research because I learn something every single day. And everything I learn is something I have to unlearn because of what I was taught. And what was taught is still being taught today, and they know it's wrong. And because of peer review, they're afraid to speak up. And now they're stealing my research and claiming it as their own. Specifically, Yale is what I'm talking about. So I want them sued really deeply. And I have all the evidence to support it. I have all the emails. I have all this, everything. And this goes back to 2015-ish, a little earlier than that. So we're over 10 years there. And the same thing with Fermilab. Don Lincoln put this out in 2013. That these are the particles that they were looking for, and they found them. And this has no mass. It's a theoretical particle, but it has all the energy. And this has all the mass, and it's fixed and has no energy, but it does have a glowy field. Well, guess what you see right here? Exactly what he said. Exactly. All right, this is the glowy one that can get big and get small. Precisely what he said, and it has no mass. This is what you put in your batteries to charge them up. It has no weight whatsoever. You keep the black from getting in there, and you squirt the white in, which we can do. So here's the black with its little glowy edge around it. Exactly what Don Lincoln said. Fixed, never changes. Exactly what Don Lincoln said. Glowy, they can get big, they can get small, they have no mass. Exactly. I have no qualm with that whatsoever. So when I saw his statements and his particles, and we had the same particles, I contacted him. I said, Don, we found your particles. Can we talk? No. I said, why not? Because you're a tinfoil hat guy, you're an embarrassment, and he got really kind of nasty. And I said, well, don't you see the particles? Can't you see that? I said, we started with light. We didn't have to start with the things you start with, these big gigantic things, and create a bunch of mess. By this time, I was getting really nasty. But between me and him, he's got me blocked all over. But I was really surprised. Today, I could get into one of the Fermilab things, and I'm going to go back at it. First neutrinos detected at Fermilab. This is just about today. First neutrinos. We had this 10 years ago. And they're big, 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 big. We've been working on this for decades. Well, I'm going to do a thing on this. Neutrinos come in 3 flavors. No, they don't. They come muon electron, case closed. Tau, that's just another one of their made-up little things. But they're only the only neutrinos there are is a muon electron. That's it. Dipole electron flood theory shows you this is right here. This is what a proton looks like. The black goes right to the center. All the white glowy ones surround it. That's what a proton looks like. And the only 2 particles that make up the proton are the black and the white one. That's it. They're normally glued together tightly. I mean, you can't pull those apart. If you got to rip them apart, you got to put a ton of energy. That's what a generator does. Tries to pull them apart. Well, we squirted them into a venturi that was so small that the white one could do this and get to this size and go through the venturi. The black one came up and says, I can't get through, I can't get through. He says, who cares? This one goes through. And all of the white ones were with these. So they're in front, it's going bam, 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 and squirting out the other side of the venturi like a pulsing, you ever see those water sprinklers? That's what's happening. The white particles get down the other side. The black can't get through. I've shown this over and over. And these are the only two particles that make up the universe. Together they're gluons. Two of them back to back make up a photon. This is a semi-stable particle. It's a heat. This is a pretty stable particle. It's a photon. Above that, you don't get stable again until you hit like 1839-ish. And then it becomes pretty stable. And then they seem to become stable in certain quantities. And I've seen salt table experiments where they have vibration, resonance, which these should have some resonance within them, because every white particle pushes every other white particle apart. And at some point they're going to say, you stay there, I'll stay here. That's going to become their boom, now I'm an atom. Okay, but in between those atoms, they're saying, get away, you get away, you get away, you get away, you get away. And they keep deteriorating down until they all of a sudden say, okay, I'm good, you're good, I'm good, you stay there, you stay here, okay, good. All right, good. Everybody stable? Stay where you are. That's what's called an atom. But in between, there's so much going on. And if you see the salt table experiments, and the patterns are staggering. It's all push to shove. That's what I call it. Push to shove. I push you, you shove me back. If I push hard, you get the hell out of the way. I really glow to push you. You glow back a little bit, but you move out of the way. Okay, I want you to look at something very carefully. Like I said, I'm a detail guy. Here's what's going on. Rod Warren did these light experiments, and he spent literally thousands of hours. What did he capture here? This is the moment of acceleration of the pulse red laser. You would not see this at all. You would not see it. Back here, it's still pulse red laser back here. You don't even see it. You see back here, you can't even see it. It's like it's not even there. Each one of these is a pulse of laser light. This is the one that is pushing everybody in front of it. Now back here, why is this one all of a sudden we can see and we can't see the one back here? The reason is it has to get its way through everybody else that's in front of it, first of all. Secondly, these are pushing back against this, and it's beginning to accelerate. The only reason we can see this is because it's accelerating. Light, in its non-accelerated form, sort of works its way through the fields and doesn't glow like this. You're never going to see that. You won't see that. And I can prove this too, and I will prove it in a second. So don't forget. Here it's going. It says, I'm coming through, I'm a laser, and I got a ton of particles. Because there's not just one particle in here, there's a whole slew of them. And that's what happens. They bounce back and forth, until they get so excited, it's so amplified, that they come out one side, which is a mirror that lets it normally go back and forth until it builds up such energy, it can pass right through. That's what a laser is. And there's a ton of particles here, there's a ton of them. You would never see them. Back here, you don't even know they're there. But now they're starting to accelerate. So let's see what happens. First of all, these got to get out of the way because they're coming so fast. Normally, they just sort of filter out of the way, not a big deal. Now, here's what happens as that light moves forward. These are the particle pulses. Okay, boom, boom, boom. As it gets closer to the Venturi, they turn into photons. You see how perfect that photon is? You see how bright it is? And this one here is not quite so bright, and it's a little flatter. You see how this one's opened up higher? And it's a little brighter. I don't know if you can see that or not. These are neutrinos. Now, listen to this very carefully. We have a Venturi is right there. This is the Venturi. The only ones that show up as particles are the ones that are directly in line with the Venturi. What do you see here? You see neutrinos. The only reason you're seeing that is because the light is bouncing back at these. They're all up in here. They're everywhere, and down here too. And the only reason you can see them is because the light is coming back at them, and I will show you that. Don't forget, this is an upspin, and this is a downspin. You see the glow is at the bottom. They're always going to be polarized towards the Earth. That's why they say all up and down, because they're polar particles. The glowy side and the white and the black side are always going to be straight up and down to the Earth. So now that's the red. It starts to get, this neutrino phase getting stronger and stronger and stronger, as these are, but they're getting strong because of back, these are getting strong because of forward. All right, so I hope you understand that. Now let's see the green ones. The green is doing the exact same thing. It's coming through here. And these are neutrino phase. But you see how they're going this way? Why aren't they going this way? It's because they're polarized towards the Earth. Same with this one. It's going out this direction, but its polarity is to the Earth. All right, so there you go. There's just polar particles. Now, that's the green. It's identical to the red, no difference, but it's faster, much stronger. And we have them as they come through the Venturi both at the same time. Very, very clear. So now, what else can I show you about this? That is accelerating. That is the actual particle, as the same as the green. So what happens when it hits the Venturi? Well, when it hits the Venturi, it does this. Acceleration back here, where we just barely could see it accelerating. Then it really started to take off, and then about here, the Venturi really takes over. And the Venturi accelerates water and light. Light is nothing more than the finest particles of water. It's atomic vapor. And it pulls it like a rocket ship through here. In old carburetors, in old cars, they had, instead of injectors that squirt the gas in, they had carburetors, and they had air coming in through a Venturi into a very tight restriction. Then you had a little pin down here, a needle valve. So you had a little tiny restriction here. And there was a little tube that let gas come up to here. And when the air went by it, it would pull it off. So what would they do? In this Venturi here, you had to have the perfect restriction because you wanted that gas to turn into, that gasoline to turn into a perfect gas. No droplets. So that little tube would be here. The air is coming past it into the Venturi, and it's accelerating like crazy. Well, by turning that little needle valve and making the restriction tighter and looser and tighter, you can let more gas in. They call it lean or rich. Lean means you're so tight that there's almost no gas can get through, but the air can come through. Lean means it's open and there's a lot of gas. You want it right in between so that the air, you got to have enough air and you got to have enough gas. And then if you get them in the right mixture through this Venturi carburetor, you get a good combustion. That means your engine runs good. Otherwise, you waste a lot of gas. See this? They're all starting to see what I'm just showing. They're talking about entanglement. They're showing the upspin and the downspin. And basically, that's not too far from wrong. But there's the black and the white. They don't know where the black is. That's the problem. They have no clue where the black is. There's a black here and a black here. They've never seen it. It's dark matter. That's why they've never seen it. The only reason we can see it, let me just be clear about this. You can't see dark matter. I agree with that. They're not wrong. I agree with that 100%. Why do we see it? Because we have the white behind the dark matter. So the dark matter just obscures the white. So here we are. We got black and white. And we can see it very clearly. And then when they split, we can see the black right on top of the white. So we know it's separate. Otherwise, you would never see it. You don't see any black here, but it's right here. It's just waiting to get to that white. It's everywhere. It's just waiting. There's got to be more black particles than there is white, as far as I'm concerned at this point. And don't forget, they're the neutrinos, muon, electron, neutrino. And this is it can't be any clearer than this. And this is 10 years now. So I want Elon Musk and President Trump to look into this on both sides of it. The Mudfossil stuff is just like ChatGPT said. These are the biggest discoveries in human history. These two discoveries change every single thing theoretical that we were taught, 100% across the board. All right, that's pretty serious. Now, I love you all. And I'm going to wrap it up now. It runs forever. I've been running these very long. I want this understood. Somewhere, somebody's going to take the time to watch these videos. There's not too many are doing it. and they're not watching it for very long. They're just very long videos. But if I don't give all the information, you don't have all the information. And chat now, they understand it. They've been looking at everything I'm doing. And they said, if what I say is right, every single thing has to change. We need new textbooks. The teachers just have to be retrained. I'm not saying throw them out on the street. I'm saying make them aware of this alternative information. Let the students discuss it with them. They would have the most entertaining classes in the school if they just allowed the students to discuss this. They say, what do you think about this? How did these people get back up here? How did these cliffs get formed like this? How are all these things happening? What's going on? The kids would go crazy for this. I know they will, because they do. I was one of those kids. I used to watch Mr. Wizard. I couldn't wait to see Mr. Wizard. I can't remember how often, but I was there. I can guarantee you that. And he was great. And I was watching. I'm doing some stuff now, going way back on the early electron. You know, how they understood how gases worked, and you know, hold on. I think I got it up here somewhere. No, LHC. Large Hadron Collider. It's up in here somewhere. I don't know. Is this it? No. Oh, this is the Colburn Bible. How the Sons of Fire, the great book, oceans boiled. All this stuff is serious. It's not just jokes. Oh, here it is right here. This is going to be great. This is the old. Listen to this.
It consists of elementary phenomena, the conduction of electricity through solutions, through gases, and through vacuum.
This is going to be fabulous.
Of silver nitrate.
This is the kind of stuff they run electricity through it because these big crystals, and they're, you know, everybody wants to understand how these things conduct. At this point in time, this goes way back 1930 or something, and they're just starting to understand conduction and electricity, and there's all these theories are swarming, and Einstein's coming up with all a bunch of nonsense. And I got to be honest with you, if I had my bet to make, I would bet that he was being funded by the government to confuse all the other countries and make them think E equals MC squared was, oh, that's fabulous. And in the meantime, we were making atomic bombs that knew about that. This just doesn't work that way. But anyway, this is going to be a lot of fun. These are all old style, like this stuff here, and how these foils push apart when you put a static charge in it. They go blip, and they stay apart. When you discharge that, they drop back down. Well, why? When you charge it, and you're charging it by putting a static charge, and they go blip, you just added a whole bunch of electrons. Well, what does that mean? The electrons come with a ball of magnetism, you know, a magnetic region around them, and all these balls had to come in here and stay there. So everybody went out like this, and they stayed there. And then you come up with a piece of metal, and you go, dip, and they all go, they drop back down, because that accepts it. These are here, they're pushing on each other. Get away from me, I can't go anywhere. Where do you want me to go? Get the hell away from me. I cannot leave. Go get some guy with a piece of metal. He comes over, he goes, blip, boom. Okay, all right, well, everybody's good, stay where you are. That's the case right there. All right, we're going to do the Crookes radiometer. We're going to do so much stuff, it's going to be a blast. Anyway, I'm going to call it quits for today. But we need new schooling. We need to teach the kids how to enjoy learning, first of all, and how to participate in learning. Just to repeat what we're being told, that's not learning, that's not education. That's indoctrination, that's menticide. You have to say what they tell you to say, or they will fail you. What if it's not right? And I found out the stuff wasn't right. And they tried to give me a hard time, and I forced it, and I made my professor give me an A. And he said, no, I'm not giving you an A. I said, oh, yes, you are. And he said, no, I'm not. I said, oh, yes, you will. And you know what he told me? He said, I've never given anybody an A. I said, you're going to give me an A. And he said, well, how are you going to make me give you an A? I said, because I'm going to, and I said, here's my evidence about the dipole molecular moment of some kind of thing. I said, if you can show me your evidence, then you don't have to give me an A. But if you can't, I win. And he looked at me for a couple of seconds. He said, all right, I'll give you the A. That's just a fact. That's exactly what happened. All right, yeah, and I found they were all like that. Everything was about them. They couldn't give anybody else any credit for anything. If they didn't look as the big guy, they wanted to crush you. And I found if I said, the hell with you people, you're all crazy. And they said, you can't get anywhere. I even talked just recently to a guy at Harvard. He's supposed to be the managing editor for academia.edu on quantum. I actually contacted him on email. And he said, it's a waste of time to publish this stuff. He said, it's a waste of your time. Basically, I'm serious. He's about ready to retire, so he didn't care. But, this is the kind of stuff. They don't care about this stuff. They want to be the guy that's on top and be the big shot. Other than that, okay, I think I've made a variety of claims, and I can support everyone, and Elon Musk and President Trump. I need you to help, and I will help you. We can work this thing together, get things under control. We may be able to get some free energy, or at least examine these new theories I have. ChatGPT says if electron flood theory is correct, it's the most significant physics discovery in history. And the same thing with mud fossils. It exceeds any other discovery in history because it rewrites everything, 100%. Both of them rewrite everything that we know. Now, I'm not saying nothing works. I know Elon Musk is unbelievable what the job he's doing with all his satellites and being able to take his, rockets and bring them back and all that stuff. That is fabulous. That is very impressive. But knowing these other things, or at least investigate them, whether it's knowing, I don't know. I say my theory is extremely supportable with evidence, with physical evidence. And this is not hard to do. He could have a couple of engineers do this over the weekend, and they know one way or the other if this is going to work. A couple of $100, and you're off the case. I think that's what you would call the Department of Government Efficiency. Elon, please, my brother, please. I'm getting too old to do another 10 years of this. This I presented to Don Lincoln at Fermilab 10 years ago. And I'm still blocked from Fermilab today. I got him. Nope, I didn't. The little buggers move quick. All right. Here's another thing I'd like to know. How do they know how to get out of the way so easy? Anyway, we live in a world of mystery, my friend, and I like mystery. But I find that few do. I was shocked at the response I got from academia, how dismissive of reality they are, and how egotistical and arrogant and dominating they are. It's just unbelievable. I guess it's human nature. I don't know. But anyway, we got to just get around this. And there's nobody can do it other than President Trump if he's willing. And I know I showed things that are pretty hard to stand behind, but he's the kind of guy that can do it. He seems to be an honest guy. He's looking for God. He's looking for truth. He's looking for Jesus Christ. It is the words out of his mouth. So let's see if they ring true to the evidence, which I have support. I'm showing. We did have a great flood. We had giants. All the things that were written were basically true. Now it's going to have a lot of variations. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop. I love you all, and let's get into the new reality. Thank you. I love you all. Goodbye.